Good morning. Well, it's another Monday morning out there. And thank goodness it's a little bit drier. We just got back and, well, you could feel on the trail, you could feel the wind and everything. It still has settled down quite a bit and doesn't seem like we're going to have rain. And maybe today will be sunny. We're hoping for it. We'll all get together. But, sit back, relax, get your coffee, tea, orange juice, hot chocolate, whatever you like, and sit back and listen. Anyway, we'll be back in a moment. So, just take a breather. I'll be right back now. Okay, there was something, I just turned on the news to see if any changes to stories or whatever. And Global talked about a Muslim center in, can't think of the city right now. However, there was a letter saying there was a new sheriff in town and his name was Donald Trump, and how he was going to clear up the neighborhood of all you illegals. And really, have we stopped the undivided? When thinking back to when the Democrats won the White House after 8 years of Bush, did they go around and saying, oh, there's a new sheriff in the White House and his name is Barack Obama and he's, I don't see why or how the Americans allow this to go on. People need to learn how to get along right through the whole barrel. And yes, I can understand where there are negative elements entering your country. That's okay, but you can't classify everyone. And another thing that really irked me in this letter, they said, well, Trump is going to do, and I'm paraphrasing here, it's not the exact quote, but I'm keeping the essence of the quote. Will do to you what Hitler did to the Jews. And I can't see how anyone thinks that this is appropriate. People have to stop saying, oh, I'm the big bad guy, there's a new sheriff in town. And we've heard this already in this after the election. We hear, that there's a new sheriff and blah, 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 blah. So what if there is a new sheriff in town? If Trump holds on to the presidency, and I only say that because there are some recounts in place, but no one really thinks it's going to change anything. But he's won fair and square. Now, people who don't like him or didn't like, they have a right to protest. They have a right to call for re-election. But on the other hand, Trump, except for that one time getting on, I think it was Meet the Press or whatever, and saying, oh, stop the violence. I think he's really got to take ownership that some of the people who say that they voted for him, that they really need to get out there and stop it, because it's just going to continually get worse. And where you said, or Mr. Trump, you said you were the law and order president, well, maybe you need to get off your high horse and get down to work and try to calm your supporters. I think it's the hatred, and that he constantly bows down and to the people who elected him, and these are what they want. It goes back to, first of all, the Mexicans, how all the Mexicans were just rapists, and well, he could run his hotels and that, but that's what the people wanted to hear, so that's what he kept on elaborating on. And I think we saw it in his rallies, we saw it after the election, and it just keeps getting worse. There's a new sheriff, and he's going to clean you all up and get you all the hell out of here. Well, I don't think that's appropriate. And it seems like no one is willing to go out and do anything about it. People, you need to wake up. If this continues to go on, your country is not going to be safe. No one's going to want to come visit your country, because people who don't look like a white person is going to be attacked. But, this will just make America great. I don't think this is going to make America great. I think it's going to stop wanting people to come out there and spend money. But the white America is always the one that knows everything, and how great it can be, and make America great is basically saying, well, yeah, we'll make America great, we'll just make it all white men running everything. And I keep saying white men because basically after he gets all the Mexican and the Muslims out, he's going to go after women. Because I have a distinct belief that Donald Trump believes women should be in the household. Keeping the household, and men should be out getting the job. Well, I'm sure that could help the unemployment rates, but think about all the working mothers out there, single working mothers. Rights are going to constantly be taken away, and the hatred's going to keep growing. So why would you want to live in a country that the hatred is just going to be taken away? Or not taken away, sorry. The hatred that Donald Trump is not stopping is purely racial. It's not going to make the America great again. It's not, sorry, I was trying to get that light out of the way. It's not going to do all these things he says it's going to do. Instead, it's just going to make America unsafe. The streets are going to be totally asinine out there. And he can't come up and see how people can help the states. All these white people who really did not want to work in the first place are now claiming all the jobs are being taken away by, Muslims and Mexicans. Well, I'm sorry, guys. All those jobs were jobs that you did not want to do. But where can we learn what happens if you follow this path? Well, let's go back and take a look at that letter that person who wrote the letter claim that we should go back and learn, saying that Hitler and the Jews, we should really take a look at that. Well, that's going to tell us what's going to end up happening. And, Trump may not live by this or believe it, but it can come out and it can be problematic. People, we need to stop the hatred. The president was accounted for and won, and he hasn't been counted totally. The Electoral College hasn't sat yet. But you've got to stop the hatred. And Donald Trump should be the first one out there to call on his supporters to stop the hatred. But we won't see that, because he's too busy trying to get the inside of his fighting in his own transition team to go. And meanwhile, all these people who are doing stuff in his name and racing and getting elected, and saying, oh, well, all this is end up going to hurt America worse than it could possibly ever be today. But, when do we stop the hatred? People are always wanting, let's go back to the 1950s, where if a black person walked the streets, they could get clubbed. And, now it's going to be Muslims and it's going to be Mexicans. But funny how to think now they're not saying blacks. How they know that blacks are probably going to kill them. So they attack someone, and what they will do is keep going down the chain until they find someone where they can win. And there were just so many people in Germany that the Jews had no chance. But why do we have to go over, and why do we have to go through this all again? Mr. Trump, I'm talking to you. Solve the hatred and get rid of it now. I'm not condoning his actions, but you can get rid of the Muslims, and you can get rid of the Mexicans if you wanted to, and you could do it a hell of a lot more easier and better than if you had you're doing with the hatred right now. Somehow you've got to pull the country together, and right now with the vote, or not the votes, but calling on all the hatred behind you isn't doing it. And you need to find a way to pull your country together. People have to work one-on-one and build a stronger union. And you need to lead. You may just be the president-elect right now, but it's your fault we're in this hatred altogether. And hate groups may be just using your name, and that's not right either. But, you need to be on the case. Instead of twittering about Hillary's team wanting a recount and blah, 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 why don't you get out there and tweet about stopping the hatred? Whether these people are truly your supporters or they're just using your name. But we have to stop it, and we have to make sure that things don't progress. It's something to think about. Okay, just one more little thought I just came up with after my chat was my concern is when this happens all the time and, it's no longer a news story. Then people who think they have the right will just continue to show their hatred in every way they can. So we've got to make sure that anyone who continues this story, we need to keep not publicly shaming them, but writing letters and, telling them how wrong they are. Because if your president-elect won't do it, you need to do it, and you need to show up that you stand up for these people. That was it. Okay, there was a story in the Globe and Mail today. And it said, now we're going to see how tough Trudeau can be. And it goes into the World Earth Day and, how we're all going to protect the environment and, how great we're all going to be and so on. And then on the same day, he says, oh, congratulations, Donald Trump. And, we have to be friends and all that. And then when Castro passed away the last couple of days, he just pretty well got on the news or made a statement about how great of a man Fidel Castro is. And, we can't really say anything to get our Cuban friends all mixed up. Well, first of all, the number of Cubans, especially in Toronto, in this country, are all here because Fidel Castro's policies left them in turmoil. They had to leave. They had no freedom. But, freedom needs to be helped. And it can't always be, well, let's all be friends. Sometimes friends have to tell other friends that something is wrong. They're not doing things correctly. But Mr. Trudeau's trying to run, the even street. We don't want Mr. Trump upset with us. We don't want Cubans upset with us. But you know what? Sometimes we need to say, I don't think you're doing things well enough here. This is what I think needs to happen. Now, how many of you have had that conversation with a friend? And it's not meant to be vicious, by saying, oh, well, I'm going to have sanctions against you if you don't do what I say. And I think we've seen with Mr. Trump how A, he treats women, B, his plans for the Muslims and the Mexicans. I think he should have, had a little bit more serious tone when he did the call to the Americans. And I've said this before, that I don't think Mr. Trump should be, the first international visit of a president is usually to Canada. And I don't think that we should have Mr. Trump do this. People in Canada are upset with having Mr. Trump. But, it's everything. Oh, well, we've got to make friends. Well, the actions of him during the presidential race has not really shown that he's that presidential. We need to stop this, and we need to keep building a better world. And if the States decides to go off and go and do whatever they want, well, they can do that. But I think the rest of the countries need to stop and say, well, until you clean up your act and start treating all your people as your citizens, and, humanely treat people who may be in your country illegally, we need to stand up to the Americans. Just because the American president has always been the commander-in-chief, and, he barks and everyone in the world listens. Well, that would be fine if he had my vote, or even had a election where I could have voted for him. But there was no election. I still couldn't vote for him. And I think what we're seeing from our prime minister right now is that, oh, well, we just have to appease everyone. He is our biggest traitor. And we could also see this in talks from businessmen already, that we have to appease him. That, Trump, there was something in the newspaper where an economist said, we have to play by American rules to get American business. And you know what? I'm sorry, I don't believe that. This may have worked in the past, but I think, Canada is a strong nation now. Yes, we may still have the same population as California, but I don't think we need to bow down and do everything that the Americans want us to do, or we'll do this to software lumber and this to that. And you have to buy American to make us do business with you. I don't think so. I think we have a right to buy whoever we want. But if you keep calling your people racist, and how all of Mexicans are criminals, and there's a few good ones, I don't know. And same as all Muslims aren't bad. And you say that you would like to put a ban on Muslims coming into the United States. But you say, just till we figure things out. But you know what? You'll never figure things out. You'll just keep upping it all the time. And, Muslims will never be allowed in your country. All because a few may have wanted to get in and cause you problems. I really think it's a lot of your internal security's work. Sometimes people get by that are bad. Excuse me. But I think, Mr. Trudeau, you need to get tough on some parts. We need to show that Canada isn't sort of like a yes person. We're not going to constantly be saying, oh yes, Mr. President, we'll do that right away, is garbage. And pretty soon, everyone will stop wanting to do anything with the states. And, how bad can your economy be in 8 years? Well, think back to 1939. A lot of people aren't going to want to deal with a country that, as long as you're white, you'll be able to get the business. But that's the sort of stories we're hearing now. And I think enough is enough. We need to have people start treating people with respect. And if you're not able to clean up the people that are already causing harm to other races, just for the sake because they don't fit in, is El Poro to El Poro. It's just bad. Why do we have to keep going on and believing in this? Did we not learn anything from Hitler? But no, as long as Donald Trump, anything Donald Trump can do won't be problematic, because it's all wonderful and it's all for Donald Trump. And oh yes, how great it'll be to have Donald Trump running the nations. Well, I think we need to be tough. Canada and the rest of the world needs to be tough. And I'll bet you when things don't start going his or his supporters' way, how much he'll turn his head then. And he'll be all smiles and trying to woo everyone back. But, people need to stop thinking that their way is only the correct way. And having people develop is an awesome thing. But yet, we don't believe that. Mr. Trump doesn't believe that, and it doesn't matter what we believe because it's only what Donald Trump believes. And because he has a full Republican House, not a full Republican, but he has a Republican House and a Republican Senate, he can pretty well push anything he wants through. So you know what? I think the Americans are up for a big surprise. Mr. Trudeau, I think you have to start the ball rolling by show how strong you'll be until Mr. Trump starts showing some leadership and some dignity towards the Mexicans, towards the Muslims, and anyone else. Everyone has the rights. And you know what? It's something to think about. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, we have a rental crisis in Vancouver. Now, it's not being helped that everyone who's in the building industry wants to make like luxury condos because that's where they can make all the money. It doesn't help that people buy blocks of these and hold these offshore because they want to save their money. It doesn't help where people are being turned off of the street because they're of lower income. Now, landlords are playing into this. They're, holding out for as much money as they can get. Well, and I can understand this because, there's an awful lot of free enterprise in home rentals. However, what people are wanting money for and wanting top dollar for is not necessarily worth it. There's people, and I know for a fact, who are getting kicked out of their apartments because, oh, we're turning this into condos. Oh, and they keep hiking up the amount of money because, oh, look what the top dollar gets. Before, another reason why this is happening and why we have a crisis is Airbnb. And it's again people thinking, oh, well, I can make a lot more money putting things on Airbnb instead of renting it out each month. Airbnb, you can have a turnover, you can make over $100 every night, and I'm all for a free enterprise. But I think basically we have to find places for people to live before we go out inviting the world or selling off prime rental spots. And how many of these places actually end up sitting free? It's astronomical. But you know what? It's all free enterprise. So if you can't afford to live there, you're just going to have to get out, or you're going to have to make more money. And, I don't think that's acceptable. First of all, a lot of these people are on disability or could possibly be on welfare because they can't find work. But, just as long as everyone's happy, and meaning everyone who has the money and controls Vancouver. But why does City Council just keep permitting this to go on? There was this talk in Vancouver about, the housing crisis. I don't think anything really came out of this. Why doesn't the cities get together and come up with a plan that can be implemented right across the whole region? People need to learn that to take care of one another. Now with a new president going into the White House, it doesn't seem like anything's going to change. Oh, it's a Donald Trump ideal, and oh, Donald Trump can do this, and Donald Trump can do that, and we're going to do it, and we're going to get the most money because people are that stupid to play around with. The only thing that will make this change is people who are holding on to all these suites in Vancouver will start wanting to rent them out or to sell them so that they can recoup their money. And the only way that's going to happen is when we have a drop or a pop of this bubble in Vancouver of how much people will actually pay for houses or condominiums. And they all look for the most money they can get. Now, if you drive along Broadway, East Broadway, from I think Rupert to Nanaimo, maybe past there, all the houses and some of the old houses along there will have for sale signs on there. And they're wanting someone who thinks they're going to build condominiums there to say, oh yes, I'll pay top dollar for that. And then just turn them into condominiums, which aren't going to be, places where people want to rent, because a lot of the condo boards just want to have people in there who will pay top dollar. It's not going to be any rental units. So, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to have to stop approving all these great big condo complexes that we know that are going to be sold to people in other parts of the world. People have to be able to find places to live where they can afford it. Now, Vancouver is also losing a good more of its population, and that's why they want to build more condos up and down Cambie Corridor. All those old houses are now they're all going to be condominiums. Everywhere you look in Vancouver is going to be condominiums now. And this is asinine. The housing shortage, just building more condos, isn't really going to do it. Now, down towards Cambie, but Marine Drive, there's a whole new shiny complex. And in there, yes, there is condos. But on the other side, there's also going to be placed some rental units. And you can see the signs that's saying for rent now. And again, I don't know what the prices are. But just to think, if you're renting now, if your landlord came to you and said, "I'm sorry, I'm selling the place, you have to be out in a month," would you be able to find a place to live? Chances are you're not going to be able to, unless you're going to make sure that your landlord gets top dollar every single day. And you know what? I don't think you'll be able to do it. But, as long as people get the top billing, that's the most important thing. So, I think the city has had its big conference. Now I think the city has to come up with an action plan and be the same right across the city. In fact, I think the province should come in and do a plan. Now, people seem to think, oh, well, we don't want to turn away business. Well, business has had free reign of the cities and the province as opposed to land and how much people will pay for long enough. How many business builders and that have made their millions? Enough is enough. We need to ensure that we have places for our seniors, for our low income, and not turning over every single land opportunity to people who think they're going to get massive amounts of money all over the place. But, that's what capitalism is. And if you don't have the money, you shouldn't be out there trying to live there. It's asinine. People on low income pretty well get a little hovel. It's almost as bad as with a little plastic tarp to separate your rooms. Everyone deserves clean, affordable housing. Something to think about. I know I do every day. So have a great night, and we'll be back in a moment with closing thoughts. Okay, we've had hatred. We've had people with homes in Vancouver who don't really want to sell them. They just want to get top dollar, rent them out as B&Bs. And, you know, we got to start taking care of all our neighbors, just not, the white neighbor across the street. And people are going to be upset for me for saying that, but we have to do it. Enough is enough. Getting this crap to stop is something we all have to do. Do unto others as they have you do unto them. Or whatever, because we need to care for one another. Have a great day. I'll talk to you tomorrow morning. Bye now.